Good morning, everyone. I feel like we've been having so much fun. There's hardly space to talk. We've had such beautiful chanting and singing, and we've been playing the blues a little bit here already, and it's just been a really uplifting and joyful morning already. And I was joking with my friend Rose yesterday when we had a beautiful farm banquet last night in the community. And of course I knew what the reading was, and this line from the Bible, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God." And I said to her, maybe we shouldn't talk. Let's just chant that beautiful chant that our chanters and that David chose already. "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Alleluia, alleluia." I said, what if we just sang that for 30 minutes? And it was so beautiful in here when we were singing that I just hardly wanted it to stop. And though I won't put us through another 30 minutes of singing it today, I really feel like we could get more from just chanting and really feeling the vibration and the spirit of those words, because that is the essence of the path. You know, when I read this reading, I switched weeks with Shanti last week, and so I wasn't planning on this reading until just about 10 days ago or so, and I took a look at it and I saw first things first, and I thought, oh good, because if any of you know me, you know I love lists, I love to-do lists, I love agendas, I like to know what's next and what to do in order. I've spent the last few days here, most of my team, our team is very small here at the Sangha, and half of them are gone. So James is up at Ananda village with Viveka Devi and Yudhishthira running a program at the Expanding Light. And as many of you know, Sai Ganesh is off to India to lead a group of pilgrims on a 2.5-week, 3-week pilgrimage up through the Himalayas. And so I spent Wednesday, Thursday, Friday here at the Sangha by myself, and I had all of my to-do lists in order. There were no distractions. I was going to get so much done, and I just loved it. So I love when we get a list, and first things first makes a lot of sense to us, you know, and here we have it, and it's just so simple on the one hand. It's easy to just stand up here and say, put first things first, just love God. It's that easy. Just love God, think of God all the time, remember to keep God at the center of your heart. But then I was thinking about it, and as much fun as I had these last few days, it was also a lot of work to be here by myself, and I didn't always get to stay even-minded and cheerful. There were times when I'd get a little overwhelmed, maybe a little grumpy, maybe a little short with people along the way, and it made me think about really just how difficult that is. Putting first things first, keeping God at the center of our life, because it's not just about sitting in meditation twice a day. It's not just about chanting a chant once a week here at Sunday service, but really it's about a complete integration. And that's what I realized, that putting first things first, living the spiritual path, walking the spiritual path is not about prioritization. It's about integration. How do we integrate our spirituality, our divine connection with God into every aspect of our life? That's truly putting first things first. This reading should be putting first thing only, because there's nothing else to be doing but to be constantly working to integrate. And as I said, that's not always simple to do, because the spiritual path is hard. It demands a lot of us. It demands our attention, our awareness, our willingness, our commitment in every single moment of our lives. You know, a few months ago, I had a seclusion back in June, and I went up to Sea Ranch for a few days, and there was one day where it was just sort of perfectly gloomy, and for any of you who have been up to Sea Ranch in Mendocino County, you're just sort of tucked away in this little house where there's not really much else around. There's a few other homes scattered along the coast, and all you see is ocean and just vistas. And so I was sitting in this house and just staring out and looking at the ocean and taking the time to slow down and contemplate, as we do in seclusion. Yogananda said that seclusion is the price of greatness, because when the world stops buzzing and we can get quiet, we can hear and we can listen. And there's so much truth that comes from that. And one day I was sitting there and just pondering, what is it that's stopping me? What is it that's stopping me from just jumping in wholeheartedly with everything I have? Why do we keep getting pulled back? And we could have a long dissertation on the science of yoga and Maya and the ego and why we get pulled back. But I was just thinking about it introspectively, and what I came to was that there's this little part of me that's afraid to jump all the way in, because once you give all of that energy, once you commit to that constant push of acceleration on the spiritual path, there's no stopping. Once you accelerate, you just keep going until you reach self-realization. And that energy output can be daunting for us, because to come back to where we're saying, integrating, feeling that experience, having that awareness in every single instance of our lives, where we're constantly keeping ourselves in check, where we're constantly coming back, raising our energy, entering in with the right attitude. Putting first things first isn't about our actions, it's about our attitudes. And this is what the book of Matthew, chapter 7, tells us. If you haven't read the book of Matthew, chapter 6, recently, I just read it a few times last night and yesterday morning and a few days ago. And I almost wanted to have story time with all of you because it's so beautiful. And I just wanted to bring it up here and read it to you. So it takes just 5 minutes to go back and read it. There's so many powerful lines that come from this chapter. This is the chapter where we hear, if thine eye be single, then our whole body is full of light. And of course we get, seek ye first the kingdom of God. But really what Matthew is sharing are the teachings of Jesus, that when we go to, just as the Bhagavad Gita says to us, when we go to lesser gods, when our energy is scattered out there in the world, when we're constantly trying to find God and compartmentalize what is spiritual, what is work, what is family life, what is everything, and we're just trying to parcel it all out and put it into these nice, neat little boxes, we get tunnel visioned. I was thinking of the story of the Kumbh Mela. This is when Sri Yukteswar meets Babaji. And he's walking through the Kumbh Mela, and he's looking around, and he has critical thoughts about all of the noise and the chaos that's happening around him. And then this sadhu comes and calls him over. Of course, what we know, reading the chapter, is that sadhu who's called him over is Babaji, but he hasn't revealed himself as such yet. And Babaji says to him, "Be like the wise ant that can separate the sugar from the sand." Learn how to see the good in everything that is around us. And that's such a beautiful first step. But then I was thinking about what that's like for us. If we're spending all our time just trying to find the good in everything, sometimes we miss the miraculous that's around us. We say, oh, later on I'm going to meditate and have a great deep connection with God and feel so good, but right now I just have to get through this thing. I have to just get that to-do list done. Or, maybe tomorrow I'll sit down and chant and I will open my heart, but today I have to get my chores done, whatever it may be. And we start to compartmentalize our life because it makes more sense for us that way. And we just try so hard to separate the sand from the sugar every single time. But if we're constantly trying to do that, then we can't just exist in the sea of bliss. I was thinking about the meaning of Paramhansa. Many of you know that we call our guru Paramhansa Yogananda here at Ananda, and Paramhansa means supreme swan. And I asked, actually, this story first, I can't take the credit for it. Saganesh told me this story, so I'll start with this. He comes up to me and he says, "Do you know what Paramhansa means?" And I said, "Well, yes, it means supreme swan." And I was so proud of myself because that's the answer. And he said, "Yes, but do you know why we call Paramhansa, do you know why we call a self-realized sadhu, a yogi, a supreme swan? Do you know why we use the word swan?" And I said, "No." And I looked it up, and it comes from the Vedic teachings, the Upanishads. And Hansa, which is a swan, is the only bird symbolically in the Vedic teachings that can separate the milk from the water. And this is why it's a symbol of truth, that a supreme swan is an enlightened, wise master, because the supreme swan can glide through the world and separate the milk from the water. And I went on a rabbit hole last night about all of this, and I learned quite a bit about swans that's actually rooted in truth. That's Indian swans, which are actually more like geese than swans. These are all the things I learned. That they live in pools, often where there are lotus flowers growing. And so they dive under the water and they eat the stalk of the lotus flower, which secretes a milky substance that they sustain themselves off of. And so that's why it's rooted in truth. There were so many others I could go down. I learned a lot about swan anatomy and different things like that. But the reality of it just comes back to this one truth. Are we gliding through the waves of grace? Are we living our life, as Yogananda said, standing unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds? Can we feel the divine in everything, not just compartmentalizing and using discretion and discernment every second to try and feel what is good and what is right, and painstakingly, with great effort, try to remember God in every moment. But how do we make it effortless? How do we use that model? And it's such a beautiful thing. And the story that we get here, the two penniless boys in Vrindavan, is just a perfect example of this. Because I love the line that comes at the end. What Ananda says when his brother and Jitindra return from Vrindavan, and not only are they happy and well and alive, but they're pouring and they're showering rupees onto the table in front of Ananda. And he says that the laws of demand and supply, which is very interesting because we often hear it supply and demand. But demand and supply, the demand comes first, just like we hear in the first line of Autobiography of a Yogi. It's not the guru-disciple relationship, it's the disciple-guru relationship. Where is our energy? Where is our effort? And when we demand of Divine Mother her presence, her prosperity, her abundance, when we demand to feel her and to see her in every aspect of our lives, she can't help but meet us there. And the power of this story is not just that Jitindra and Mukunda were well fed. Where are they fed? They're fed at a feast made for princes. The table was set for two princes, and two men come up to them on the train, and they take them here, and this woman has laid out a banquet table for them. And then later on, they're taken around the second challenge that Ananta gives them, for those of you that were unfamiliar with this story. Mukunda's brother, Yogananda's brother, Ananta, gives him two challenges. One, to not miss a single meal. And two, to see the sights of Vrindavan without any money. He sends them off on a one-way ticket to Vrindavan, and he says, get yourself home without missing a single meal and while still seeing all of the sights of Vrindavan. And to do that with the prosperity of Divine Mother. So they're not given any money in order to do this. And the second, so first they're fed as princes, and secondly, when they're toured around the city of Vrindavan, they're toured around by a man who sees and recognizes Yogananda as his guru. So it's not just happenstance, it's not just luck. Oh, great, here we are, we found a little trolley, let the trolley take us around. Or, oh, wonderful, someone's giving us scraps of food so that we can stay well fed. No, when we demand of Divine Mother, when we keep her present in our heart, she feeds us like princes. And we find those divine souls who are there to enlighten and to enliven us, and to bring us closer to our own spiritual path, to bring us closer to our next step to grow spiritually. And this is what it means to start to learn to separate the milk from the water, to be gliding like that swan through the the muck and the mud in order to begin to feel what it looks like to start to parcel these pieces out step by step by step, to know that divine truth is there. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, to keep God always in the heart, to keep God always just waiting, just hoping. You know, in the city of Vrindavan, we have some friends who are about to head to Vrindavan in just a couple of weeks. I had the great privilege to be there just last year, about a year ago, just about this time. And there's a wonderful work that's happening in the city of Vrindavan. It's called the Yogananda Charitable Trust. And there are a number of widow mothers who are cast out for various reasons by their families and left in the city of Vrindavan. And this woman and the other members of the Yogananda Charitable Trust, they feed, clothe, shelter, provide medical care for the widows. But even beyond that, it's not just about giving them what they need in order to be sort of sustained on a certain level, but they also speak to the spiritual principles. They teach the mothers to chant. They help the mothers create crafts and bags and things like that. We even have some here in the gift and bookshop that they sell. They paint and they create beautiful artwork so that they're giving back, that they're being filled up with divine energy. And it's not just about receiving, but it's also about giving. The supply of demand, or the law of demand and supply, that we demand of Divine Mother what we want. And I thought that was such a beautiful way to look at this story, to look at what it means to offer ourselves to Divine Mother, because here are these widows who are just being given so much love. And that's the root of it. It's not the food, it's not the milk, it's not the water. We had the opportunity to go around one morning, and it was just a complete and utter whirlwind. If any of you have been to the city of Vrindavan, it's like many, rural cities in India where you're just sort of driving around and there's all kinds of obstacles and chaos and noise in the way. And we'd stop somewhere. We were driving in an ambulance because that's what the charitable trust has that they use to transport things around. And so Sai Ganesh and I and a number of women who work at the trust were going around to 7 different stops around the city of Vrindavan to deliver milk and bread and water and food and different things like that. And we were just going chaotically through all of this, and we'd stop because there's a cow in the middle of the road. And of course, cows in India are sacred, but cows in Vrindavan, the city of Krishna, are beloved and sacred. And so we'd all stop and the cows would come by, and then we would continue on our journey. It kind of felt like you were on a roller coaster. And then we'd stop and we'd get out, and there would be 50 to 100 people just waiting in line. And every single one of them, they weren't just there to get their food. They wanted hugs, they wanted love, they wanted to chant together. We were dancing together. Then we'd pack everything up, get in the car, and go to another place and another place. But then along the journey, we would stop, and we got out of the car, and here's the Jamuna River, the river of Krishna, and we meditated and sat by the river, and then we got back in the car, and we'd rushed around, and there was the temple of Krishna, and we'd stop, and we all got out because they were showing us around and showing us the sights while we were on this chaotic and crazy journey. And that's what I began to feel, that there was suddenly no difference between the chaos, between the giving, between the stopping and meditating by the river, that all of it was a part of that journey. We were in the car. Sai Ganesh speaks Hindi, but I don't. So everyone was just speaking Hindi to me like I knew what they were saying. And of course I did, because we were all brothers and sisters, and I just kept smiling. And I'm trying to describe for you what the chaos was like and what it just felt like in the midst of that. But it was a perfect example of not trying to separate the sand from the sugar just so painstakingly, but effortlessly doing that. Because it wasn't like every time we stopped at a temple, oh, now we get to love God. Or every time we got back in the car, now we're crazy and we're running and we're driving and we're honking it was all just there. It was all a part of the same divine experience. It was all this beautiful expression that the masters give us of what it means to be loved and held, what it means to just be totally present in the moment, putting first things first, feeling God everywhere, seeing God in everything, knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that every experience, every expression of an experience, every thought that you have, it all comes back to one divine source. There's one sole purpose in our life, to love God more deeply. And there is no circumstance or situation outside of that reality. And when we embrace that, life becomes so joyful. To thread this yarn, to pull this thread of humor that we've been sharing this morning as Sai Ganesh, or as Keshava and Tandava were playing that wonderful chant, or singing that beautiful song, I couldn't help but think of one of my favorite Hafiz poems that I heard many, many years ago. And the poem is very short. It's only about 10 words long, and it goes like this. God and I are like 2 giant people sitting in a tiny boat, bumping into each other and laughing. And it's just, you can just imagine the visualize. I always kind of visualize 2 like sumo wrestlers just sitting in this little tiny, it's a small world type of boat. And just, it's chaotic, it's messy, it's rocking all over the place, and they can't quite get comfortable. But there's God just bumping into you. And what would that be like if every step along your journey, all of the times that you feel joyful and all of the times that you feel stuck and stopped and just stopped in your tracks, what if you just felt God bumping into you and laughing? What if we could shift our attitude? Because this is, again, to come back to the main point of what we're speaking to, putting first things first, feeling God everywhere. This beautiful chapter of Matthew that we pull this reading from in the Bible, what Matthew says to us is, when you pray, don't go to the synagogue and cast your prayer out for the masses to hear. Go into the closet. Go into your closet, into your heart, and pray for the divine there, for the Heavenly Father, will hear your prayer in secret. And when you offer alms, don't go to the synagogue and offer your alms on the dais for all to hear. Offer your alms in the secret desire and passion of your own heart. Loving God does not begin out here for us. Finding God does not begin by standing in the right place at the right time. We want to meditate, we want to chant, we want to do all of the things that Yogananda and Swamiji offer to us because they're all tools that help us to shift our consciousness. But what we're ultimately working with is a transformation of consciousness. That transformation comes from inside. Things are always going to stop us. We're always going to be thrown off track. We're always going to be given curveballs. And the question is, how much do we love God? We say we love God, but how much do we love God? And even beyond that, how much do we trust in God? How much do we trust in what's being offered to us? How much do we trust and know that it's God in that boat sitting next to us, rocking in the waves every time we feel like we're just about to tip over? To really feel and to get still and to hear and know that that is the truth. And just to finish briefly with this, circling back to this idea of Paramhansa and separating the milk from the water and what that looks like in our own lives. We've been given such beautiful examples from all of the gurus on this lineage of what that looks like. Truly, putting first things first means living in the world, but not of the world, to use the words from Lahiri Mahashaya. And really, we see this example so perfectly. If you go back and listen to or read, last night I listened to Two Penniless Boys in Vrindavan a few times. It's a very short chapter. And what we find after this whole journey and this whole, and all of the truth that comes from this, and Ananda, who is just so humbled. Here's Ananda, who's so worldly. The chapter begins where Ananda says, money first, God later, life can be too long. And Yogananda responds to him, God first, money is his slave, life may be too short. So Ananda, who represents all that is the view of the worldly security, the view of needing and knowing that if I can get things right on the material plane, then everything will be right within myself, sends his brother off on this challenge, and at the end comes back so humbled, and he asks to be initiated into Kriya Yoga. And he says to Yogananda, he says, if you come back successful, then I will become your disciple. And so we see this complete transformation. We hear in the Bhagavad Gita that a yogi, what's day to the yogi is night to the common man, and what's night to the yogi is day to the common man. This complete revolution in 180 in Ananda. But what stood out to me in reading that chapter again, whenever we read these great chapters, we hear things we didn't hear before. After all of this and this great devotion and the humility of Ananda to realize and to feel that the laws of God, that holding God and having faith in Divine Mother is our truest security, they still go, and the chapter ends with 2 paragraphs where they go because they were in Agra, where Ananda was living, and they wanted to see the Taj Mahal. And it ends, and they go to the Taj Mahal, and Yogananda is writing about how beautiful the bejeweled walls are, and how beautiful the grand palace is. We're not shunning the world. At the end of this, it's not renounce all beauty in the world, walk away. Just like when we hear in the chapter on cosmic consciousness and samadhi, after Yogananda's given this experience of cosmic consciousness, his guru hands him a broom and says, come, let's sweep the balcony floor. There's still much work to do. This is the challenge that we face as yogis, living in a world like our current world, in this urban setting where we're asked to participate, we're asked to be involved, we have to have work, we have to make money, we have to pay our rent, we have to go to the store and buy things, we have to have computers to connect in the world. The lucky ones are the ones who get to walk away and just go into the Himalayas and say, I'll come back in the next lifetime. The battle is here, right in front of us. And that's the question we get to ask over and over again. How much do I trust? How much do I love Divine Mother? How much do I know that she is walking with me? How often do I invite her in? We offer all that we are in secret so that when we're standing up and we offer it out loud through our expression, whatever that may be, the way we move through the world, the way we interact with our families, the way we participate in meetings with our coworkers, that vibration just expands from the very center of our heart, because the truth, the authenticity, and the sincerity are already here where we're living them.
There by my bed, he left me a note. Can you explain these words that he wrote? Seek me, he said, love, out on the sea. Boundless the reaches of true love must be. Past here, my sweetheart, past
So this is a piece from Swami Kriyananda entitled Non-Blues. And for those of you who aren't familiar, it is written as a gift for his guitar teacher. Swami Kriyananda started taking guitar lessons, and he played some of his original music for his teacher. And his teacher criticized him, saying all those cheerful songs, they're not real music, they're not going to make people cry. And so Swami went and wrote this song and gave it to him as a present at their next lesson. What am I doing? Hanging out in this cellar? Well, it's like this. I'm composing a blue. No, it ain't the blues, because it's only the one. And brother, one's all I can do. Well, I'm a-hanging my head like I oughta. How's this? Have I got the hang of it? My chair is a case of gin, and my mouth I have drooped like a Saint Bernard till its corners are touching my chin. You may ask, why you feeling so blue? Well, I ain't, I just thought I should try. 'Cause some fella said, all the songs of yours ain't for real, they don't make no one cry. So I thought, I'll just find me some cellar, for the only way to feel blue is forget the sun and pretend the world is as dark as a fireplace flue. Oh yeah, that's realism. Love that gutter. Yet, I wonder if we ain't been misled. How much reality can a man see anyway if all he does all day is hang his head? Now it ain't that I don't know what grief is. This old heart has had its full share. But grief's one thing and complaining another. Why multiply grief with despair? 'Cause I find that this whole world around me, like a mirror upon the wall, smiles back when I smile, looks blue when I'm blue, and that blue shade I don't like at all. So I'm going back to my bad old haunts. My time here is almost done. 'Cause the fact is, fella, I can't stand this cellar. I've just gotta get out in the sun.